Welcome to the Be Happy Now show. Flex your soul connection muscle and be your inner guide to fulfillment and purpose. I'm Claudia-Sam. If you know that you're here for a bigger reason, this is the place to be. Together, we ditch the self-care guilt and quit the go with less fear and more trust. Tune in to living life in alignment with your full potential. The Be Happy Now show starts now. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Be Happy Now show. Still in my cozy gear, I wanted to chat about if you feel like you need to be in the green to trust life's flow. This is for you. I've had a few conversations lately where I've heard some of you say that, well, I need this in order for the other thing to happen. I can't trust no, I'm certain. I can't go ahead and go for a transformation of my whole beingness if I don't have a guarantee that I will show up for it. Therefore, I need to be in the green. I need to have the money in my bank account in order to make the next move. And it's a little bit like what came first, the chicken or the egg. It's you get to decide what's really a priority for you. And I wanted to make this a really quick episode today in sharing that A Course in Miracles says that ego is the mind's belief that it's completely on its own. And so the ego was made as a substitute for abundance. Can you believe that? The ego was made as a substitute for abundance. So if we're using, let's just play here. Let's just brainstorm together. If the ego was made as a substitute for abundance, but we're using the ego to negotiate our way to getting the thing that would help us transform our lives, whether it's a coaching transformation, whether it's going on a trip, whether it's investing in a new barbecue, or whether it's getting your bike fixed, or whether it's changing your computer, or whether it's buying glasses or getting the medication. Whatever the thing is, if we're using the ego as a negotiating partner in letting us decide whether something is right for us or not, whether it's something that is good enough for now or not, or if we are letting the ego negotiate us into what we need, when we think about the ego was made as a substitute for abundance, this comes from A Course in Miracles, because the ego lives by comparisons. Equality doesn't exist for the ego. It's like beyond what the ego can think. So charity becomes impossible. The knowing that you will be cared for when you follow your intuition is not a thing that the ego can conceive. Ego is the mind's belief that it is completely on its own. That means that there is no support for the ego. And I've heard sometimes, do you sometimes feel like, no, I can do it on my own? I've been like, whether it's trying to get to the gym and making your body feel better or eating healthier. Does it ever happen to you when you feel like you're actually falling off track and you're like, yep, I had great intentions, but that's not really happening? Chances are it's because the ego came here. The ego wanted you to do this thing because the ego was negotiating you into thinking that that's what you needed. But when it's something that you're so devoted to because you know its purpose, because it comes from your heart, and because your soul self, that spiritual sight that I was talking about 2 episodes ago, that spiritual sight is accessible when that intuition hears the mind and thoughts of God and of love. Okay, you can switch the word God to love, to the universe. You decide. This is from A Course in Miracles. And when we remember that the belief, for example, that the ego creates of, I need to be in the green before I can take that next step for myself, it is also an ego negotiation. It's also the ego thinking it needs to be only one right way. It needs to be that one specific path, or else it's not good enough for the ego. So, is there something lately that you've been really wanting to do or to take on for yourself or to say yes to? Maybe it's even having support like a nanny at home to give yourself more time with your partner if you're busy, if you have young children, for example. Maybe it's taking lessons of the instrument that you want to learn, or painting or cooking or motorcycle or paddleboarding or surfing. Maybe you want to take those classes, but you're saying, I have to be in the green before I can do that, when your soul would feel so happy, like for you to be in alignment and to do what feels so good to the soul. But then your ego comes in and negotiates it. Okay. So my invitation for you today is to remember this, that the ego was made as a substitute for abundance, almost like a blockage to happiness, almost like letting you know, hey, you are not allowed to be happy now. That's kind of what the job of the ego is, to be the little devil on your shoulder that never shuts up. Because the ego thinks it's alone and that the light doesn't exist. But if it's from that place that decisions are made, that means we're giving way to scarcity and lack, and we're choosing to live and believe that lack and scarcity exist. Therefore, that means that we abide by the belief that we are separate to love. And I know that you're here because you want to return to love. You want to get closer to who you really are. And so if the ego is the mind's belief that it's completely on its own, it wants you to be as far away from being supported and held and heard and seen as possible, because it believes it can do it alone. But then the ego also believes in lack and in scarcity and in limitedness, in the end of things, in failure. If you listened 2 episodes ago, we talked about how you cannot fail. When we only see through the eyes of the human self, we think we can fail. We think that abundance is something that we need to work hard for. But right now, what if, okay, mini challenge, what if you just looked around right now and noticed the physical things that you're seeing? Maybe it's walls, maybe it's a floor, a mode of transportation, maybe you're seeing clothing or food. You actually manifested the wholeness of who you are, not just the ego, not just the human, your soul self too, manifested you being right here, right now with all of this around you. Okay? You are in a world that your thoughts manifest in this physical world. So you get to decide if you believe in that scarcity and the lack and how you are separate from your true nature of love. Or if you remind yourself as you get to flex your soul connection muscle time and time again to come back to spiritual sight so that you can remember the equality that this spirit wants for you. That ego was made as a substitute for abundance. Therefore, abundance is who you are. That's who you are. Look around again. Notice the abundance around you. Abundance of air that you're breathing. Abundance of color, of shape. Abundance of life, maybe by hearing sounds. Abundance of feeling and sensations. Abundance of aliveness. Abundance of manifestations. Abundance of return on your investment. Maybe abundance on inspiration. In inspiration, maybe an abundance in nourishment. Find it around you. Take a breath in and out. Beautiful. Whenever it feels like you're falling off track, that is actually the ego, because you get to always be on track with your soul self if you want. That's what I do. And when we work together, one of the things, like the Back on Track bundle that I talked about, you'll see the notes about the Back on Track bundle if you still want to grab yours. There may be still some available. when you listen to the show, the idea of getting back on track is to be dancing between ego and soul and to remember your true nature of your soul self. So it's not about getting back on track to doing the right thing for the ego, but rather to help you realign with what your soul wants for you, to help you realign with the truth of who you are, to help you realign with this abundance, to help you realign with the oneness and the support that you have access to, because you don't have to lone wolf life. You don't have to prove anything to yourself or to others that you got this on your own, because you are so supported, even by God, even by the universe, even by the energy of love. You are so supported. And when you get to see that and practice that, you're on track. So find that information for the Back on Track bundle below in the show notes and any new things I might have added there. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited for you to just go and walk out of this episode and into the feeling of abundance within and around you. Have fun.
You've been listening to the Be Happy Now show with me, Claudia-Sam. Flex your soul connection muscle and be your inner guide to fulfillment and purpose. You are worthy of being you and of connecting to what stops you from living the life you are meant to live. Access more soul connection coaching at claudiasamcoaching.com.